All right, it's 6:30. I'm calling to order the City of Plymouth's Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, March 5th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Members of the public not attending in person may submit written public comment prior to the meeting by emailing your comment to the planning clerk at jsmith@cityofplymouth.org before 3:30 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Emailed public comments will be distributed to the commission and made part of the official record. This meeting will be recorded. Council chambers are wheelchair accessible. Special accommodations may be requested by contacting the planning clerk 72 hours in advance of the meeting. Please silence your cell phones and any similar devices. And first, we have a roll call.
Commissioner East,
Here.
Commissioner Malcolm,
Here.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Here.
Vice Chair Klaproth, absent, Chair Sullivan.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
All right, let's all rise for the flag salute. We'll move on to number 2, which is approval of the Planning Commission regular meeting agenda for February 5th, 2026. Is that correct? Okay, that's what I thought. All right, let me restate that. Number 2, approval of the Planning Commission regular meeting agenda for March 5th, 2026. I would like to make a motion that we approve it with the correction of the date in number 2. Do I have a second?
A second.
Commissioner East,
Yes.
Commissioner Malcolm,
Yes.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Yes.
Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And let's move on to public comment is next. Under the provisions of the Government Code, citizens wishing to address the commission for any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time by completing and submitting a speaker submittal form to the planning clerk or following the instructions noted on the agenda. Speakers will be called by the chair at the point on the agenda when the item will be heard. Speakers should keep their comments to 3 minutes or less, state their name and community of residence. Under provisions of the Government Code, the commission is prohibited from materially discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda unless it can be demonstrated to be of an emergency nature or an urgent need to take immediate action arose after the posting of the agenda. Is there anyone in City Hall that would like to make a public comment about something that's not on the agenda? Do we have anything in writing? All right, I'll close public comment then. Next, we have presentations and appointments. Number 4.1 is the 2025 General Plan Annual Progress Report.
The state of California requires staff to submit an annual progress report demonstrating how we're meeting the goals and policies of both the general plan and the housing element. Our general plan was adopted in 2009. General plans typically last for 20 years, so we're nearing our sunset date on the general plan. The housing element was recently adopted by City Council. However, it's not certified yet, but it is included in here. The purpose of the APR is to demonstrate how we are aligning with the goals and policies of the general plan, and to show where we are moving away from it and maybe where we need to redo the general plan earlier than the 20-year date if it was necessary. Similar to last year, as we discussed before, most of the goals and policies of our general plan are quite onerous for a small city, for a city of this size. And so, as you can see in the document, a lot are marked as not done yet, and most won't be done. Over the last year, we have adopted objective design standards. So we do have some design standards now for the cities for our multifamily projects. But for the most part, they're just not done. You know, an example is subdivision standards, that those are very expensive. We don't have too many subdivisions going on. We're not a constantly developing community. We also had a downtown specific plan as a goal, and again, very expensive for the size of our downtown. As far as the housing element goes, as I mentioned, it was recently adopted by the city council. We are starting to work towards some of the requirements of the housing element as we're required to do so, even though it's not certified yet. Tonight's ADU ordinance is required as part of the housing element. We have some other ordinances and changes that will be coming up that we need to make to the zoning ordinance that are mostly actually required by state law. So it's not anything crazy or wild. It's just what the state requires of us anyways, and we'll codify it so it's there. You aren't required to make a motion on this. It doesn't require a resolution. It's more of an informal discussion. If you wanted to better understand anything else, anything in the APR, we can talk about it some more. And then from here it goes to council. And again, council just hears as an item, and then I will submit it to the state. It's required to be submitted before April 1st. That's the deadline. In the APR, we do list some ongoing project or some current projects that we have, and I'll just list them so you're aware. Our major projects right now are, we have the Greelitch Ranch, which is 299, which is a 299 unit residential subdivision. That's in progress. They haven't technically submitted a tentative map, and that's required for us to hit the next step, but they have submitted one for a cursory check before they formally submit, so they can catch any comments right now before printing out plans. And so we're looking at that now. So they're still in progress. An EIR is underway. That has been a project for a number of years. We have Arroyo Woods has recently reapplied. This has been an ongoing project since I think 2008. There are new developers tied to it, and they have submitted an application for 109 dwelling units on that parcel. They remain incomplete as well. They did give us a map, and we had a significant number of comments on it, and so they're working on readjusting their tentative map. Other projects include the Arco AM/PM gas station at the trading post. That is, they require additional CEQA work so that we can complete it and get it to public hearing, and we're waiting to determine if they want to move. We're waiting for them to determine if they want to pay for that additional cost and move forward. So that's sort of at a standstill right now. They are technically complete. We just have the additional CEQA work that needs to be done. And then we have the 88-room hotel. And the applicant is working on his technical studies for the CEQA document, which he hopes to actually complete soon. Once that's done, then work will begin on CEQA, and then hopefully be at hearing at some point soon. We also have an application in for a gas station at the Pokerville Market. That is incomplete. Comments went to them, I believe, a week ago. And then I elevated that to Planning Commission. So that'll be a Planning Commission review project. And recently staff did approve a five unit complex on Sutter Street. And that included 3 deed restricted affordable units. So they'll be deed restricted to lower income households for 55 years. And then it's 5, and then they'll have an ADU on top of that. So it'll be some multifamily housing for the city. But that's really what we have. That's kind of the extent of what is going on in the city right now.
Great. And just because I know we have a couple of new faces up here, and I remember being a new face up here, and we probably may have some new folks listening from home today. Can you just kind of explain, like, give the 2-minute what a general plan is and what requirements we have what we have to do with it regularly or on a 20-year time span or whatever, and then same with the housing element real quick, just for the benefit of the new folks.
Okay, so I'll separate the two. The housing element, I'll start with the housing element because that's more of the big ticket item that we see more often. So the housing element has a specific window, and it's 8 years. So ours is 2021 to 2029. It's an 8-year period. We're currently on the 6th cycle housing element. Every, let's say, region in the Bay Area, their time frame is different. So there are some jurisdictions that are getting started on their 7th cycle right now. Their time periods obviously are earlier than ours. We have till 2029 for the 7th cycle. The housing element is two components. One is its goals and policies to encourage the construction of housing as well as the construction of affordable housing. So what are the barriers to constructing affordable housing? It could be that we have a very onerous zoning ordinance that really limits anything other than single family residential development, or it could be that we are requiring really extensive setbacks and it's limiting the ability for people to construct. Along with that, for every cycle, the state of California hands to the county our regional housing needs assessment number. So it's the number of units we are required to build within that period. And we're required to plan for, obviously the city doesn't have to build it, but that number gets broken down into low income, very low income, moderate, and above moderate housing. And this city consistently constructs above moderate. So within those numbers, it gets further broken down into each city within the county, and then the number of those income categories. And what we as a city have to do is prove that we could theoretically allow for the construction of those units within that time frame. Luckily enough, during the 5th cycle, we upzoned a parcel that could allow for up to 100 dwelling units. We did that with a high density residential overlay. So that takes care of our numbers from this year. We didn't have to rezone a site or upzone anything. Most jurisdictions do find that they have to upzone properties, increase the density, or rezone parcels to meet their RHNA numbers. We're lucky enough where we have enough vacant land and our numbers aren't that high. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. I think it was 36 for this year. But we had enough, so we didn't have to rezone it. But in some cases, a city would have to rezone or upzone for the sites. The general plan is different in the sense that the general plan is looking at how do we want to grow as a community over the next 20 years. So if I adopted a general plan tomorrow, where do we see ourselves 20 years from tomorrow? And it's supposed to be the gradual growth or not growth, maybe infill, city by city, depends. But what do we want to look like in 20 years? Where do we want commercial land? Do we want industrial land? Where would it be located? Where might we put extra housing? We have a sphere of influence. Do we want to expand the sphere of influence so that we could annex other properties and grow as a city? And that is done over the course of the planning period. For when you're working on your general plan, you are looking at all of those things on how you want to be. And then what goals and policies do we want to include to ensure that we can get there? Or what are our priorities that we see as a city? If a specific plan was a priority, you could put it in there as a goal for the 20-year span. And it's really just, again, those goals and policies are how are we going to achieve the look and the feel that we want of the city? Kind of in a 2-minute, very brief spiel.
Perfect. Thanks. Anybody questions? You guys good? All right. Perfect. Well, thank you for the progress report. Any public comment on the progress report at all? Any-
Second subdivision you mentioned after Greenwich Ranch.
Arroyo Woods.
Where's that?
It's, I don't map, but it's between Greelitch and Zinfandel, where Zinfandel swings up towards Old Sac. It sits kind of in between Greelitch and Zinfandel in that sort of vacant area. That makes sense.
Behind the sewer plant, sort of, right?
Yeah.
And do you know the old Tucker Hill Road? I don't know like keep riding on that thing.
So anytime we look at any projects where they have an impact to roads or anything, so let's say water, a road, sewer, that EIR is going to study what is that project's impact on a road. So if they are accessing Old Sacramento, what is their impact? What are they responsible for? Additionally, when projects come online and they start building, they are paying an impact fee, and one of the impact fees does go to streets. Now, I think Old Sacramento is a different situation in which I don't believe we own most of that road. But engineering would know better than I do. For Greelitch, they don't, as of right now, they don't connect to Old Sacramento, so it's not as significant as an impact as someone directly accessing Old Sacramento. But again, it's reviewed as part of the EIR, and we determine if any improvements are necessary or what they would be responsible for. Because I can't make someone pay, I can't make the hotel, if they don't impact Old Sacramento Road, pay for fixing up Old Sacramento Road. They are paying an impact fee, and we can choose as a city where we want to use that money.
Thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. All right, there was nothing, no written questions or anybody online, anything? All right, so we can go ahead and close number 4. And if everybody's good with that, was there any planning commission discussion on that? No. You guys have any questions, any discussion? All right, so we can close number 4 out, 4.1 out, and move on to the consent calendar items. Number 5. All matters listed under the consent calendar to be considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. If discussion is required, that particular item will be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered separately. And so under the consent calendar, we have 5.1, the approval of the Planning Commission regular meeting minutes of September 18th, 2025, and approval of the Planning Commission special meeting minutes of December 9th, 2025. Is there any comment, discussion about any of that? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
Commissioner East,
Yes.
Commissioner Malcolm,
Yes.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Yes.
Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right. On to number 6, public hearings. We have 6.1, which is hearing to consider recommending city council approval of a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Plymouth approving the adoption of chapter 19.74 accessory dwelling units to the city's zoning ordinance. Erica.
Jacob's gonna pull up our PowerPoint. You can go to the next one. Oh, went up. A little bit of background. We discussed ADUs back in 2024. And since then, each year, the state has been amending the law. And so as we tried to bring an ordinance, we had to fix it again. And then for 2026, the state significantly changed the law for 2025. So that required a complete rethinking. So it is a little bit different than what we discussed 2 years ago. The law has significantly changed. We don't currently have an ordinance within our, we don't currently have any regulations within our zoning ordinance. So right now we are following state law, but we're required to adopt an ADU ordinance. And really, this is all out of state law. There's very little we can say regarding ADUs. The state has made it a priority to allow for the construction of ADUs, to allow for additional types of housing, more affordable housing. And so most of this is just taking the government code and putting it in a more readable language. So there are 4 different types of ADUs. There's detached ADUs, which means it's an ADU not attached to your house, it's somewhere on your property. There's attached ADUs, which means you can construct it next to your house, on top of your house if you're a 1-story, but it is attached to your existing dwelling. Then there's converted existing space. So you could take your home, let's say it's 5,000 square feet, and you want to create an ADU out of the interior space up to 1,200 square feet, you could convert that. Or the other option is if you had a existing accessory structure, so a patio cover, a barn, some other sort of structure on your property, you can also convert that into an ADU. The size is limited to the size of the structure. So if you had a very large structure, you get that size. You're not required to make it any smaller. And then there are junior accessory dwelling units, which is a small conversion of interior space typically done in a garage. It can be an attached garage or a detached garage. They're limited to 500 square feet. These are some examples, just so you can see in picture form how it might work if you are doing an attached or detached, just so you can kind of visualize what they would look like. Next slide, please. In general, we are required to allow ADUs where a residential dwelling is permitted or conditionally permitted. ADUs are exempt from density requirements. Cities many years ago used to argue that a second unit couldn't be constructed because of density. That's been eliminated. You can no longer count it towards density. We are required to allow up to 3 ADUs per property. Yeah, but that's a combination of conversion, attached. So we'll go over in a second, but we are required to allow up to 3. We went over the size requirements. One major important thing is that if someone comes in for an ADU, I cannot require them to fix anything that's non-conforming on their property. You can't use that as a reason for denying an ADU. So if they had an illegal fence, I don't know, some illegal accessory structure somewhere, I can't make them fix it in order to get their ADU approval. The ADU has to be approved if it meets all of our requirements. Next slide, please. So again, you have to allow for 3. And so you have to allow for 1 conversion, either in the interior space of the house or an existing structure. 1 junior accessory dwelling unit, that's going to be in the garage, limited to 500 square feet. And then 1 new construction ADU. So that would be an attached or detached, however someone wanted to put it on their lot. In our ordinance, we have broken the 2 types of ADUs into class 1 and class 2, just to differentiate between the 2. Class 1 ADUs are smaller ADUs, and they get more allowances for where they're located on the site. Again, this comes from the state, but they're smaller ADUs. It's under 800 square feet. They do have to meet the 4-foot rear and side yard setbacks, but they can be anywhere in the front. So they don't have to follow the front yard setback. Class 2 units are larger. And in that case, you then have to meet the front yard setback of the zoning district that you are in, as well as the 4-foot side and rear. To go over junior accessory dwelling units, because these are very specific, they are only allowed in single family zoning districts. That's the only place that they're allowed. Again, it's the conversion of the existing space within the garage or within the house. Typically, they are found in garages. When you convert a garage to that junior accessory dwelling unit, you're not required to replace those parking stalls anywhere on your lot. Junior accessory dwelling units are a little bit different in the case that they can either have their own bathroom or they can share the bathroom with the inside of the house, but then they have to have direct access into the rest of the house to access that bathroom. They do have to have a kitchen. If someone were to build a junior accessory dwelling unit, they actually have to live on the property. So either in the junior accessory dwelling unit or in the house, either one is fine, but they have to physically live there. Next slide, please. We also have to allow ADUs for multifamily properties, and multifamily properties is not based on, is it zoned for multifamily? It's based on, are there 2 attached dwelling units on that property? So if I have a parcel and it's zoned for multifamily and there is 1 house, they don't qualify for the multifamily ADUs. But if I have a single family property and there's attached dwelling units, then they get to use these, they get to use the multifamily allowance. Multifamilies have 2 types. They have conversion and then they have detached. Conversion means that they can convert any existing non-living space to an ADU, and they can do up to 25. The number of conversion units can be up to 25% of the number of units within the complex. And a conversion of non-living space could be a leasing office, a gym, if they had a gym on site, a laundry room, that's the conversion of storage space, that's the conversion. But in addition to conversion, they also get detached units. And they get a minimum of 2 up to 8, and that's based on the number of dwelling units they have on site. So multifamilies can add quite a number of units if they had the space to do so. As far as parking goes, you are required to provide 1 parking space if the ADU is 1 bedroom or more. But that can be a tandem space and it can be located on the driveway. So it is easy to meet those parking requirements. Again, if they are taking over a garage, a carport, or other covered parking, we can't require replacement parking. So it's gone at that point. There's not much we can require for parking for ADUs. We're proposing, and if this were to be adopted, that a planning application would be required to be submitted before a building permit. So they'd have to get planning approval first. Planning is going to check it to make sure how many ADUs do they have on their property? What are they trying to do? Do they conform to our regulations? If it's a JADU, we'll require a deed restriction to make sure that that the owner is living, and any future buyers would know that with a JADU, the owner has to live on the site. The state requires that if we receive an application for an ADU, that staff will review it and provide comments within 15 business days. Typically for residential projects, the Permit Streamlining Act requires review and comments within 30 days. This shortens it. 15 business days does shorten it a little bit, but it is 15. Within that 15 days, I either have to determine if they're complete. If they're complete, but there are comments like you're 2 feet from the property line, you need to, move it over 2 feet, or whatever the case may be. We would have to send it to them within that 15-day time frame. And then each subsequent resubmittal, we have 15 days again. Once it's complete, we would provide a written determination on their project, and the approval could be appealed if the applicant did not like our determination. Likewise, if I say they are incomplete and they disagree with that, they can also appeal the determination of incompleteness. Impact fees for ADUs are restricted by the state. The city cannot charge an impact fee for any accessory dwelling unit that is under 750 square feet. So their impact fee is 0, with the exception of schools. Schools can charge a fee if they're over 500 square feet. After the 750 square feet, it's a proportional charge, and the building official figures that out based on the size of the unit, the size of the existing house. Amador Water does require that the applicant get a will serve letter before applying for their planning permit. So we would make sure that they got that before they come to us. So staff is recommending that you adopt an ordinance recommending city council approval of the new chapter related to accessory dwelling units. And following tonight's meeting, we will take your recommendation along with the ordinance to city council. I don't have a date yet, during a notice public hearing. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, you mentioned for the JADU that it for future use, right? So if somebody turned their garage into a JADU and then sold the house, a future person would then have to live there, and then you couldn't basically buy it as a future rental property. It would always be a JADU home.
You could, yes. And the purpose of the deed restriction is twofold. One is it's so that any future property owner who may be unaware of ADU regulations, right, because they didn't go through the permitting process, that will come up when they're doing their title reports, and it will say, here's this restriction, you have to live there. So that's the benefit of a deed restriction there. But yes, no, they can't rent out both and not be on the property. They have to live on the property. They can live in either one. Yeah, but they have to be in one of them.
Could they deconstruct it and get the
Yeah, you
Okay.
could, if you were to, let's say you have an ADU, you wanted to remove it, you're going to need a building permit. And as part of that building permit, you'll remove the ADU. And then we would go through a process where that deed restriction goes away because you don't have a JADU anymore.
How many applications have we got any, or what do you see in the
Since
future?
I've been here, we've had 2. I don't know if the first one ever actually got built. It was the conversion of a detached garage, but it was over the 500 square feet, so it was a conversion. And she was under, when she applied, it was a different set of rules back then. I believe though she was at like 749, so she didn't have to pay impact fees. That's typically what you find is a lot of people will keep those ADUs to under 750 square feet, so they don't have to pay the city impact fees because they can be quite high. But we had her, I think that was like in 2024, and we just had one recently, but she hasn't started construction yet.
Thank you.
I didn't, I mean, I obviously read through everything, but I didn't take out the government code and compare word for word or anything. So my question is ours basically as restrictive as it can be and still be legal?
Yeah,
Okay,
there's not much we can say.
okay. Are sure there's anything else right now?
You can be less restrictive if you wanted to. I mean, you can allow larger ADUs.
But we're not doing that, right?
You could allow
now.
more, but we're not recommending,
As written, it's as restrictive as it can
Yes.
be and still be legal.
yes.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, do we have any written public comment or submitted public comment? All right. Anybody in the audience have any public comment on this? If you got comment, can you come up to the mic so she can get it on the notes? Questions were fine before, but this one's actually the public hearing, so we gotta do it right. Can you push the button to down? Yeah, there you go.
My name's Kathy Landgraf. I'm wondering if your design review would be the same as normal, or they could put anything up.
So again, that's really hard. We can only have objective standards and we have 2 in there because on an ADU, it's really hard to be objective. We've done the most we can. If you are a historic property, that would be a different story. Then there are things we can do, but there's again, just not much we can say.
All right, anything else from the floor? Any more discussion up here?
It seems that like the only really qualification here is a 4-foot setback, right? Like everything, and then it has a kitchen, it has to have a single parking space. Bathroom is optional based upon if it's outside the existing dwelling or inside the current dwelling. If it's inside the current dwelling, they can use the bathroom that's there, but it basically just changes the setback to the 4 feet option, and you can build essentially anything under square footage, correct?
So you're limited in size unless it's a conversion. The conversion then is the size of the structure. If I have a structure on my property and it does not meet the setbacks currently, and I convert it, you get to have the existing setbacks. If I have a house that doesn't meet the setbacks and I'm extending, let's say, the wall of the house, I'm not making the setback less, you can still do that because it allows for those sorts of exceptions. If you are a class 1 structure, which is that smaller one, so let's say you're 799 square foot, you do have to follow the 4-foot side and rear, and you do have to be separated from the existing structure, whatever the building code requires, and that does vary based on type of construction. If I'm the class 2, which is a larger structure, so I'm going up to that 1,200 square feet, I have the 4-foot side and rear, and then I have a 20-foot front yard setback, and I have lot coverage requirements. So I think it's 50%. However, if our regulations in any way and the shape of that lot and the way the house is preclude the construction of an 800 square foot ADU, then I have to start waiving our requirements because I have to essentially allow for one 800 square foot detached ADU.
So they can build all the way to the fence then?
There's building code requirements again for like setback to a property line. They'd have to meet that. But, what it would most likely be is, my guess is the one you'd start seeing waived the most is the front yard setback, where they had to come forward if their house was set back. And it would be an older property where this would most likely apply because a lot of houses that we have in Plymouth are not, let's say, compliant with our current setbacks. So maybe you're 5 feet from the rear and you can only go in the front, but the way that house and lot is oriented is I have to start waiving the front yard setback. I'm trying to think of if I've ever waived a side yard setback, and I don't think I've ever had to waive a side or a rear. It doesn't come up too much. It'll be on a kind of, an older property where they just don't meet our requirements as it is. So like a substandard parcel.
Thanks for all the work on it. Thanks for the presentation. Do we have a motion?
I move that we recommend city council approval of a resolution of the planning commission of the city of Plymouth approving the adoption of chapter 19.74 accessory dwelling units to the city zoning ordinance.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner East,
Yes.
Commissioner Malcolm,
Yes.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Yes.
Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, I can close the public hearing. So number 6.1 is closed. Moving on to number 7, unfinished business. We have none. New business, I don't see any either. Reports, I don't have, I'm unaware of any commission reports. I don't have a chairperson report. Planning director, I think you kind of updated us on everything that was going on in your earlier item. Was there anything else that you have for us? All right, city staff. Nothing. Okay. All right. Well, given that, we'll move on to number 10, which is an adjournment. And I'm sure I'm good on that. Hang on. All right. Yeah, I think we're good. So the meeting's adjourned at 7:07 PM. Thank you, everybody.